There are 4 Jewish New Years, as if one wasn't enough. Hey, everybody. Hey, Rabbi.
How are you, Rabbi David? Nice to be with you.
I'm doing well. Good to see you too. So there are 4 New Years. You know, one of the interesting things that comes from a Mishnah. By the way, I'll tell you, 2 of our assistant teachers over here at Gan Sinai, they're not Jewish, and so we've been doing lots of Tu B'Shvat stuff. And so they came in the other day. They said, "What is this Tu B'Shvat?" So I grabbed a Gemara off of my shelf. I opened it up to Mishnah Rosh Hashanah, and we looked at that text that says that that there are 4. What's the exact? Now I'm blanking on the exact text. It's Arba'a Rashi Shanim Hem, that there are 4 New Years in the Jewish year. And the way I explain it to them, and the way I've always explained it, is that if we think about our own lives, we also have multiple New Years. We've got January 1st, we've got April 15th, the tax New Year, we've got September 1st, or whatever, August 23rd, the beginning of the school year. You know, we have these multiple. Say again.
We have our own birthdays. We
see those birthdays, graduations. Yeah, absolutely. So the idea, while on face value, the idea of having multiple New Year's seems strange. It really isn't. It's very much a part of our lives also. But the part that is strange to me is the fact that we devote one of them to trees.
Indeed. Monday is Tu B'Shvat, the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Shvat, when we celebrate the New Year of Trees.
And I will admit, this isn't my favorite holiday. I met with the teachers, and they said, "So what are we doing for Tu B'Shvat?" And I said, "Tu B'Shvat?" I don't know. It's never. I don't know. It's never jumped out at me as something that inspires me. I certainly understand the agricultural roots, and of course the ways in which the mystics sort of built and the Kabbalists built upon this. Having said that, I don't know. Does it resonate with you in a meaningful way?
Well, I think yes, it resonates with me. Not in the traditional way. I mean, the traditional way is about the idea that we have to care for our trees for a certain amount of years. You're not allowed to, even if a tree is producing fruit, you're not allowed to pick it until after the 3rd year, and then the 4th year you have to give it to God, and then the 5th year you get to enjoy it. Well, how do you know how old that tree is? Some trees were planted in January, some trees were planted in March, and so what we do is we kind of put them all together and create one holiday, Tu B'Shvat. So I get that, but we're not agriculturalists, and I'm going to leave that for somebody else to the farmers to be thinking about that. Where I think it becomes valuable is that we acknowledge our responsibility for the natural world, which is exactly what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. So let me just actually. So since we're going to go back to creation, let me just lay a touch of groundwork here. I don't think a lot of people realize that there are actually 2 completely distinct creation stories in the Torah, and yet both of them, I think, contain elements pertinent to our discussion. Right? Both of them sort of are both creation stories come with a sense of, if not responsibility, then a sense of sanctity for the natural world that God creates.
Right.
Is that fair? Is that a fair statement?
I absolutely think that that's a fair statement. And what is so interesting is that we have some competing or conflicting ideas about our rights and responsibilities when it comes to being human beings on Earth. So our first text from the first creation story. God creates humanity. God blesses them. It says, "Be fertile and increase," pru urvu. And then it says, "Fill the earth and master it," the kiv shuha. And then we're supposed to, there we go. And then urdu bigdatayam. We're supposed to rule over the sea and then all of the other animals. So if we look at that text, the question is, what does it mean to master the earth? What does it mean to rule the fish of the sea? And you can go to Ramban, 12th century, and he says that God gave the power to and the rulership over the earth to humanity to do whatever whatever they wanted to, and that we can plant and we can uproot, and we can. I think there's another one that says go a little, maybe it's a little somewhere in it. It's all about. We can quarry copper from the
Oh,
hill.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
There we go. So we can there we go, and subdue it. You got to move your.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Right. So give them power and dominion over the earth to do with it as they wish. And yet, if we go back to the second story in creation, where we have, there it is. Okay. Bring it.
I'm getting there. Sorry.
Where we are supposed to le'ovdo u'leshomro, we are supposed to work and
Wait, that's down
guard
here
the
it is.
land. There we go.
Yeah.
Now they use it as till and tend it, all right? But those words le'ovda u'leshomra, that's what ovda is, to work it. All right, shomra, shomra is to in some way protect it. So can I do whatever I want, or can I, or do I have a responsibility to?
Can I ask you a question? I'm curious about, so in the second story, we've got le'ovda, to work it, which at least I've always understood as that's the dominion side of it. That's you can have dominion, right? You can work it, right? If we think of these as sort of dichotomous. So on the one hand, we get to work the land, we get to have dominion. On the other hand, you have to take care of it. But this word le'ovda, do you know, I'm curious about if there's a connection between, so it says, be fruitful and multiply and fill the land. Like, where is master it? Oh, v'chiv shuha.
The kiv shuha, all right, is that.
To subject, to subdue, to force, to keep under. I mean, so what's interesting, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that this is a very different sentiment, chiv shuha, than la'avod, than to work. I wonder what that's about.
Which is where I say, I kind of look at Genesis 1 as I can do with it what I want because I'm a master, right? And whereas le'ovda u'leshomra, they translate it as till intended, but in this case, working it and guarding it has much more of a responsibility versus right.
You know what else? This is wild. This is what I love about Torah study. I'm just going to interject for a moment. I've been studying this stuff. I've been teaching this stuff for years. and maybe what I'm about to say is everyone else knows, but I'm literally just thinking of this because you pointed this out. Le'ovda u'leshomra. Avodah is the stuff we're not supposed to do on Shabbat. Shmirat Shabbat, observing Shabbat, is the thing that we are supposed to do on Shabbat. So, right, so now what's the connection between Le'ovda u'leshomra, our responsibility to the earth, let me change that. What is the connection between our both dominion over and our responsibility toward the earth and Shabbat, given that it uses the same words? And, is Shabbat, I've always thought of Shemitah, of the seventh year, as connected to our responsibility to care for the earth. I've never really thought of Shabbat as that, but maybe it is.
Well, yeah, sure. Because if we look at all of this, okay, the question becomes, where do I get my right to do whatever I want
Right.
with that? Well, that is a recognition that, and this is where we come back to Shabbat, is that I only own the land in a temporary way. God grants me the ability to use it, but then when I'm finished with it, or my time on earth is finished, that goes back to God. And so Shabbat is that reminder of our connection to God, and two, that we can't do whatever we want, that we have to in some way restrain ourselves, right, from the working of the land, right?
So much of the Torah feels to me, Rabbi, like God says, here it is, but stay in your lane. But you can enjoy this part of it. So here are all the animals in the world and everything, and you can eat fruits and vegetables. Right? That's essentially what happens in the first story of creation, which that's probably a whole other thing about vegetarianism and all that. So here again, God says, here's the entire earth. Do whatever you want with it. But then almost right away, God says, yeah, not quite. Right?
Right. I think you're right. I think that also we have this idea, and maybe this is a more modern overlay, that as partners with God, right, it's not that we have the same ability, we can do whatever we want, right? But as partners with God, we're required to be wise stewards of the environment. Okay, as overseers, right, just because I have the capacity to oversee my servants, my slaves, right, I can't do anything I want with them, right? Otherwise, what ends up happening? I kill them, I maim them. They're no longer useful, and that is the same as it is with the earth. That's this idea that Shabbat, like God, like humanity, like the earth, we all need time to rest and refresh ourselves. All right, the earth doesn't need it every week, right? But we do.
Right.
The earth needs it every 7 years.
Right. And just for the people out there who are saying, oh, these tree huggers, right?
Yeah.
I also want to point out that both in the example that you just gave about servants, and also when it comes to the environment, that when environmentalists say you're destroying the earth, they're wrong. We're not destroying. The earth is going to be fine. No matter what we do to it, the earth is going to be just fine. We might not live, we might not survive, but the earth is going to be fine. So much of this, le'ovda u'leshomra, is for your own benefit. For you have to do this. This isn't right. I don't think that Jewish environmentalism is quite as what's the word? I can't think of the word. Like, when you do it for all the right for really good reasons and
Altruistic.
altruistic. Thank you. I'm not sure that the way that we think about dominion and protection is as altruistic as we'd like it to be. I think a lot of it is God saying to us, if you don't take care of this, I'll be fine. I'll still be here, but you won't. It feels a little utilitarian to me, the Jewish approach to B'Shvat, and except for the way that we've spiritualized it later on. Am I wrong about that?
I don't know whether you're wrong or not. It's interesting. I've never thought about it that way.
I don't know. And maybe that's because the Torah comes out of an environment where it was agricultural, right? They literally depended on the land.
They had a greater appreciation of it. They had a greater understanding of it, and in the most populous places on Earth, right? They didn't have the population problems that the United States or any other place does. Right? We don't. The people who are I don't want to say anti-environmentalists or don't believe that Judaism says something about the environment. Well, in some way they're speaking the truth, but that's because at the time that the Torah is being written, we didn't have the issues that we have today.
We didn't have aerosolized deodorant.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Judaism in its pliability starts to recognize that we need to make a change, and then Judaism itself changes in order to address that need for a change.
Right. Right.
So.
What do you make? What do you make of Eitz Chaim? I think one of the one piece of Tu B'Shvat that I do resonate with, or that I should say that does resonate with me, is the idea that this isn't really about a tree. This isn't about physical trees. This is about the idea of perpetual growth, of life-giving, of offering shade, of sort of the giving tree kind of, but also on a very deep spiritual level, that our Torah is a tree. It is something that gives us life and grows. What's your take on where that? Do you know where that comes from? Eitz Chaim. I know it's liturgical, but
I don't know, but I would put that into an environmental lens, or I would look at that through an environmental lens and talk about sustainability. Right? That what is it that's going to ensure continued growth? Well, sustainability, the definition of sustainability is meeting the needs of the present while not compromising the ability for future generations to address their needs. And in this case, we can talk about it from an environmental standpoint, or we can talk about it in terms of a spiritual standpoint.
Hey, I found where Tree of Life is from, and I'm embarrassed.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's from Genesis. It's the tree. It's right. So Adam and Eve and Chava eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Vayamar Hashem Elokim. God said, Vayamar Adonai Elokim. I slipped into yeshivish. Hein ha'adam haya ka'achad mimenu. That right? Adam has become kind of like me. Achad mimenu, kind of like us. Ladat tovara, who knows the difference between good and evil. Ve'ata, and now pen yishlach yado, he might send his hand out. Ve'lakach gam me'etz ha'chaim, and also take from the tree of life. Do we actually know anything about this tree of life? Do you? I don't. Do you know anything about this tree of life? That's that's here in this story. I actually don't.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know
it's been
anything
a
about it.
while.
Like, I wonder if, I don't know. I wonder what, I'll have to do some research into this to see what we actually know about this Eitz HaChaim
All right,
that
we
they
can do it.
didn't eat from.
Right. We can do a pre-Tu B'Shvat and a post-Tu B'Shvat
Yeah, we'll do a post-mortem on Tu B'Shvat and
on Tu B'Shvat.
the sources that we found. Um, the the other piece that of Tu B'Shvat I think that resonates with me is the Choni story, the story of not the circle drawing stuff, but the one where it's all part of the same story, I think. But the one where he plants a tree and
A
80
carob tree,
the
that
carob
takes
tree.
a 70 years in which to grow and start to produce carob fruit. And the man says, "Why are you doing that? You're never going to live to see it." And he said, "Just as my ancestors planted for me, so I'm going to plant for
Right.
my descendants."
And in a society that is so right now, Twitter, me, to celebrate the value of doing not for myself but for someone that I may never meet 80 years, 70 years down the road, that's very powerful to me.
Or building things that last,
Yeah.
and using our resources for things that are going to last versus getting a new cell phone. I don't know. My cell phone maybe is 3 years old, and I'm a dinosaur, and now I'm going to take
Yeah.
this thing and it's going to go into some landfill, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So how do we build in a way that is sustainable? And that's where I
Yeah.
think we get into the responsibilities, the whole issue of bal tashchit, of not wasting our resources. That our challenge as a society is that we live in it, in one that teaches that the more you have, the better or the happier you are. And how can we, one, I think it's a vote for one, where Ben Zoma says, this is from the Mishnah. Ben Zoma says, "Who's the wise one? One who learns from all people, who's strong, one who overcomes their desire. And then who is the rich person? One who is happy with his or her lot." And that environmental, oh, there you go.
Yeah, I
That
love this text. Who is rich? Ezehu Ashir. Yeah.
and that we have a responsibility going back, and this, I think, to Genesis, to not just do whatever we want with whatever we have and to accumulate as much as possible, but to address issues of sustainability, and that means using less or doing less. You know, I could go to the grocery store every day and use the gas to get from my house to the grocery store and get what I need, or I can go that same trip once a week and pick up what I need for the entire week.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want everyone to know that throughout this whole thing that we've been talking, I keep flicking over to a website. This website is Safaria, and it one of the really, I'm not sure if this is a good or a bad thing. You'll have to tell me. But well, I know what's good is that Safaria has made every Jewish text in the world pretty much available to everyone. The piece I'm not so sure is good is that you really don't need to go out and buy the books anymore, because you have it all right here. And there's something about holding a book that's really beautiful. But I just want to let
But
everyone know that.
they use so many trees. So Now you
Right.
can.
That's why I was mentioning it. Yeah. But if anyone's interested, at 3:00 today on my other channel at tortechi.tv, we have one of the designers of Sapphira coming on to talk about really unique ways that people are using this in their synagogues, in their learning, in their classrooms. It's an amazing resource. So and a source that saves trees. So there you go. Any big Tu B'Shvat plans, Rabbi?
I'm
Any
going
Tu
to.
B'Shvat seders or?
I am going to eat lots of vegetarian items. I know that that's not a heavy lift for you, but I wish I could pull up. I was looking at a map or I don't know what a chart of how things, how much energy and um, it takes to grow certain things, and I was so interesting. And beef is one of the worst. The amount of feed and water and whatever,
Yeah.
and of course, the plant things are far less problematic environmentally. But it was interesting to look at it and say that there are certain plants that I eat, like chickpeas. Chickpeas, I love chickpeas and I eat them a lot, but they're environmentally
Yep.
harder than other things because they take a lot to get from start to finish.
There's actually a whole thing about wearing non-leather shoes, because apparently non-leather shoes they last about 1/7 the amount of time that a pair of good leather shoes will last, and the chemicals that it takes to make non-leather shoes. So then you're using 7 times more chemicals. All right, I'm going to leave you with my favorite vegetarian teaching, though. I just have to find it. Shoot, I don't know if I'm going to find it. It's verse 16. No, it's when they're eating. Oh, here it is. I found it. Okay. Wait, that's not it. Is that it? Et Asher. No. Hold on. No, that's not it. It's got to be over here. This is going to be worth it. This is so worth it. It's really not, actually. All right, I'll just tell you because I can't find it right now. So the teaching is when they first find the manna. Where's the manna? Where it's in chapter 17 of. I'm finding it in chapter 17, but this is not what I'm thinking of. When they find the manna, right? They get the manna for the first time. It's
Yes.
verse like 16 or something of some chapter. It says manhu. What is manna?
Here's
Right?
manna. Yeah.
8 verses later, I think it's 8 verses later. 8 verses later, the Torah is talking about Shabbat, and it says, "Et asher tofu efu." That which you shall bake, you shall bake. Now, what are the chances that manna and tofu are within 8 verses of each other? They're both white, flaky substances that taste like whatever you want them to. Is tofu the ancient biblical manna? I rest my case.
I usually get last word until you put in. I think we might want to explore something else. I'm not
What?
sure that.
What? That was gold. That was pure gold, that Torah that I just gave you.
All right, I will give you the final word. Thank you, Rabbi David, for tofu and manna, putting that option in my mind.
Et asher tofu efu. I'm just saying. Hey, Rabbi, have a wonderful Tu B'Shvat.
And to you too. And we hope you enjoyed our wander around the thought of environmentalism.
Absolutely. And everyone join us Friday night and Saturday morning. We're davening at
Please do.
tsnd.tv. See you later, everyone.
For Martin
Oh,
Luther King.
yeah. Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah.
Evening,
I'm sorry. We should have
Martin
mentioned
Luther
that.
King.
Yeah. 6:15 regular time?
6:15 regular time.
Great.
I had a really nice conversation with Dr. Jeffrey Swain, who is the Dean of Religious Life at Florida Memorial University. So
Fantastic.
great.
I'm looking forward to that. All right.
All
Have
right,
a good one,
everybody.
everyone. See you later.